Oh, that's fine. So, well, at least we have similar tastes. So do you know who I'm here? Yeah, so Brenda.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a great fit for the team.
She's great.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming out for our first in a while. All member meeting. All member meeting. I'm Katie Ledusky. I'm the executive director here at the Weill Center. We are happy to host you this evening. Amanda is on the board of directors, so clearly she's starting to run the board. And so thanks for coming out today. We're excited to host you here at the Weill Center in our historic lobby, originally built in 1928. We are celebrating our 20th anniversary season this year, so we have a great lineup and a lot of fun shows for everyone to enjoy. So if you haven't been to a show here, or if you haven't been to a show in a while, it's been about 2 years with the COVID thing, please come check out our lineup. We have about 5 shows in the next 2 weeks. So Over to Boys, Outsiders, tribute bands, Kobo will be coming up too. Olivia in the back is our new marketing and events coordinator, and she has 2 free movie tickets for each of you. So if you didn't grab it from her already, please do on your way out so we won't miss that. So with that, I have been honored to be on the BID executive committee for the past, I don't know, 5 years. I started in 2020. So I'm honored to introduce Paul Rudnick this evening, our president and loyal leader. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Katie. It's hard to believe it's 20 years since the year I was born. Anyway.
Why do you look at me, Paul?
Sorry?
He shot his eyes right up at me.
You were born the same year, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. I want to welcome everyone to our annual BID member meeting. Annual with an asterisk, because it's been a while since we've done this. It's great to see so many members of our board, members of city government, and of course our member businesses here. What an interesting couple of years it's been. Back in the winter of 2019-2020, we said we'd shift focus. And we came up with this great plan. And we said, here we go, now we're going to do it. And then COVID kind of hit us across the face pretty hard. And it's taken us a little while, but I think we are finally there. So first thing I want to do is I want to introduce our very intelligent, very committed board of directors, those that are here, who would stand up and just give a wave. And now that you've met all of them, I'm going to turn it over to Green Bicycle Company, Heather Cleveland and Nancy Merrigan, who we contracted with back in April of this year, is what I was trying to say, to help us shift our focus from kind of direct marketing to more of a grant issuing-based organization. So if you'll give them a round of applause, Nancy and Heather.
If anyone has any questions along the way, please feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to answer them. You're probably not the only one wondering, or if you have any questions afterwards, Nancy and I will be here to answer any questions that you may have. So as Paul mentioned, we were hired in April of 2022 as a contractor to serve as a staff for the Harbor Center Business Improvement District. So Green Bicycle Company is a consulting firm that was formed in May of 2020. We now have a staff of 4, and I think what is really cool about this is there previously was an executive director, but now there's a team. And that way we can bounce ideas off of each other and bring different things to the table to serve similar duties that have been in the past. So I'm Heather Cleveland, we have Nancy Merrigan, urban planner, Lorenzo Backus, community developer, and then our newest staff is Barbara Alvarez, community educator, and she'll also be our bookstore manager. So we want to present first our 2020 annual report for the Business Improvement District. And there's packets available. You receive one when you walk in, or if not, there's one in the back here. So we have the budget breakdown, which includes
done in the bid is not simply administrative. In order to keep up with the changes in the businesses, understanding the vacant properties that exist, understanding programs that are available through the WEDC or other entities, you need more support than that. So new focus, as part of that, was becoming a granting organization, which I'll touch on in a bit, increasing member communication. So thank you for coming. This is part of that effort. And then to nurture and leverage partnerships. So rather than having silos, how can we work together to create nationwide great. So the 2020 relief grants, so they were between $2,500 and $3,000. A total of nearly $90,000 was distributed to help businesses in the Business Improvement District during COVID. So then next was the 2021-2022 strategic plan. So in 2019, as Paul mentioned, the Harbor Center shifted away from employing full-time to full-time and recognized that organizational and directional changes needed to be made. Board members developed a work plan and they shifted the organization from event-based to grant-based. And that was in 2020. And the full board accepted and supported that work plan. And then in 2021 is when we stepped in to help them implement that and kind of zoom out and look at strategically what are we trying to accomplish with those actions. So with that, like I mentioned, there was a work plan, like action plan, and then there was also a communication action plan. And we zoomed out and created 4 focus areas, which included structure, communication, partnerships, and placemaking. Yep, and this is a document. It was also, it's also in the packet, which you can see. So 2 goals with structure, so to establish a relevant purpose and identity for the Harbor Center bid. So folks moving into the bid, do they know what a business improvement district does? Do they know how that works with property taxes and the benefit of being in a business improvement district? So that's something that we're looking to educate. And again, here tonight is a part of that. We also started to a welcome program, so handing out packets and introducing ourselves to new businesses in the bid. Another goal is to improve Harbor Center bid operational structure. So in my past, I've been an executive director of a nonprofit, so creating those infrastructures and the organization so people can find things, onboarding for new folks. So those are all the kind of things that we're creating to make sure that when people join, for example, a board, that they feel welcome, or when people join the bid, that they feel welcome. So all those structures need to be in place. And another part of that structure is improving, for example, the email list. Or another thing that we did is implemented postcards, and that's also part of the communication. But how do we keep track of these addresses? How do we keep track of those emails that we created processes to improve that? Communication was on the top of the list. So there is a communications committee that prepared the action plan for the communications. So one goal is to create transparent operation and communication with Harbor Center bid members. So I already mentioned a few. So we have a newsletter that we're working to have that out monthly. And then we also are sending out postcards quarterly. You can imagine that there's can sometimes be a difficulty. We have the property owners' addresses. That doesn't mean we have the contact information for the business owners. So we're working in chatting with the city at times and trying to collect this different information to have as much outreach as possible so that everybody knows what's going on. And then another goal is to expand awareness of the Harbor Center Business Improvement District. So what is the bid? How does it work? And educating Business Improvement District and beyond about what's happening. Partnerships, so to create synergy and efficiency. So hopefully having conversations with the Chamber of Commerce. We just went to a meeting today with the WEDC and other downtown districts meeting to talk about what's working for them, talking about vacant properties, and other similar issues or projects that other groups have. So we're looking to create those partnerships. So because we're in this together, it's to be mutually beneficial. Another goal is to expand support for bid members. So connect bid members to external opportunities to learn and grow their business. So what resources are available? Is there a grant application available? We want to make sure that folks know about that. And we can be the channel. If somebody lets us know about that, we can communicate out to the bid members to let them know that that's available. Placemaking. So a goal is to create a beautiful and the beautification grant is one of the great grant applications, which we'll touch on in a moment. In addition to that, we're creating a major investments committee to talk about big picture, long-term investments in our business improvement district, and that we're not going to do that alone. We're going to partner with, for example, the city or with the chamber or with the BC or others. How can we work together? Because this will be beneficial for all of us. And then to increase vibrancy throughout the Harbor Center bid. So both of these have to do with making our district something that we're proud of, something that's beautiful. And so with that major investment committee, that's something that we're going to be talking about. And an example of that is the holiday lights that we have, and then the flowers that we have, and then what are other things that we want to do to beautify our business improvement district. So another thing that we did when we came on board is to send out a survey. So we had we had 18 responses from property owners and business owners, and I want to acknowledge that some are both. We asked about bid purpose. 72% are familiar with the purpose of the bid, and 28% are somewhat familiar but want to know more. So we're really leaning into that to educate people about what the business improvement district is. Communication frequency, we asked about that. 56% wanted monthly communication, and 44% wanted regular communication, at least seasonally. So part of the point is no one said we want no communication. So that's it. Any questions? Other key themes that came out of the survey: collaboration. Everyone responded either wants, 61% wants to or would consider connecting or collaborating with other businesses. So in the events and activities grant, that's something that's encouraged to work together with businesses, because it'll be successful for all of those businesses who participated. For example, the boutique crawl was just recently, and that coordination between multiple businesses, which made an event and more attractive for people to come for it. And 61% want to know how to be more involved in events. So that's something that we can help with. If we know far enough in advance, we can give information to them so that they can communicate and that they can be a part of it. So businesses don't necessarily have to reach out to all. For example, we have over 170 properties listed. That's hard to reach out to all 170, so we can help reach out.
Will you be that sort of center point for even those outside of the district? Like, how do we communicate to say there's another nonprofit that isn't within the bid that wants to get access to the shops and the stores here? Would they reach out to you specifically to filter that through, or how does that get communicated? Sorry, I know I'm getting into this.
Oh, that's okay, but give a more specific question.
Like, let's say SCIO. Let's say they want to talk about farmers market and they want to do something special. Like, would they reach out to Green Bicycle Company to reach the bid members?
I think that simply, yes, there needs to be like a central connection, and I think, board members get a lot of that. But ultimately, having communication as a piece of the strategic plan, that needs to be two-way. So I think that's what you're kind of getting at. So we need to be ready to accept communication and offer answers, not only push things out. So we're developing a couple of different methods. We maybe aren't there yet in the presentation, but regular newsletters, the email lists, postcards, and meetings like this, that if there is news that's relevant to the members, even if it's coming from SEAO or whatever, there are methods to reach our membership.
And currently, we do have Green Bicycle Company manages the contact information for the bid. So what the email is for the bid goes to Heather and Green Bicycle Company.
And then also, to take it a step further, we're receiving all random questions. So we're documenting those, logging them, and I reached out to Chad just the other day and said, here's some questions I received, what is the answer to that? And then we're looking to either have a frequently asked questions page, or the other thing is a contact page, so that these are the things that people keep asking, we can direct them to that.
Yeah, I think it became clear early on that we needed to start a list. Everyone's asking the same questions. We need to understand what these questions are and why everyone's confused about this and how to fix them. So, and it's through that data collection and following that we're going to figure it out.
I think the other challenge is there's an address to the bid. I don't know where it is. I didn't look it up, but there's figuring out what that looks like, because some mail is coming to this location, some mail is coming.
I don't want to talk about mail chat.
So what an email is fine, but if somebody needs to call somebody, I don't know that either. So.
It's on the website. So we set up a Google Voice, so a phone number comes and they're recording, so you can leave a message. Somebody called today, I got a message, yeah. And then we also
That's
have.
good, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, but it's new, so I'm glad you asked. So the address is on there, which, and this was a discussion, so I have proposed that we have an office at the office Sheboygan, which is a co-working space, so that we have an actual address. Because the alternative could have been to have a P.O. box, but the benefit of being at the office Sheboygan is that we have a conference room that we can use for the meetings, and it's something consistent, and then also, that's where our mail goes.
So, and it is on our list to like chase down all of the mail that goes everywhere around the city for the bid, but we're not there yet, so we will.
We know the address, now we'll just forward it.
Yeah, it's 514 North Bay Street. Communication, 94% want notification on events and general news. 89% want to know more about opportunities for involvement and news on climate improvement. So we're taking this into consideration as we put together the newsletters. Awareness that members want to know more about plans and programs. Members want to be included in beautification, and members want to be heard. So just to lean in a little bit to those. So we had like an open-ended at the end of the survey. We had multiple people ask about flowers. Like they had to receive flowers, and they want to make sure to get on the list for flowers. So this year we'll be putting out that whoever wants to get flowers. I think also that will ensure that the flowers are taken care of. Because if you're just dropping them off, maybe people didn't request them. So that's part of the program. And then another comment was we want to know more about what's going on in the bid. We want to know how the money's being spent. So hence the annual report in this meeting, and then improving and increasing the information that we have available on the website to all the bid members.
So, and I think we alluded to this a little bit, but this survey has been all in all a positive response. You never know what you're going to get when you put a survey out there. And by and large, nobody said, no, I don't want to collaborate. No, never contact me again. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. I think it's terrible. It was all like, I want to know more. I'm interested in connecting with businesses around me. So I think that that's a good positive energy to go off of.
And then the other comment that we received, and I guess the overall theme of this is we're listening and we're responding as best that we can. Another comment was about parking. So we're talking with Derek from the Parking and Transit Department to improve communications about available lots in downtown. So here's the organizational structure. Some of this is a little bit new. So the board of directors, the executive committee, which we meet and report to them monthly. There is a communication and marketing committee, which existed when we arrived. The two committees that are newly formed, and we're kicking off some yet this year and then some in the new year, Major Investments Committee. So stay tuned. We'll be inviting some specific people to join that because we want this to be a cross-collaborative effort. And then within the Major Investments Committee, we proposed that they do the grant review. So they're going to be talking more long-term. There shouldn't necessarily be any surprises because this is a direction with respect to major investments that this committee would like it to go. So they'll review those and most likely rolling. And then Events and Activities Committee. So that they'll review those grant applications and then talk about what resources do we need. So something that became apparent to us in the all this we're piloting and learning from it. But in the recent grant application window and review, we felt that we needed to have a grant writing workshop. So we're going to have that in January. We're going to collaborate with somebody from United Way who has great grant writing experience to help us with that. And then also in February, we're going to work with the DPW to have an event workshop. So how do you get to the permit? Where are all the things that you have to do? Who do you call to get the toilets delivered? All those kind of things to help more people access our spaces and hold events.
And in collaboration with that event workshop, we're working with DPW to create an event guide, which they've already started. So that'll be open to more than just our bid members. That'll help the community.
And
That's
so
it's fine. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be fine.
It's not gonna be that quick, but okay.
Chad, is your beats are coming?
Chad has to leave now.
So yeah, we want to include the bid in these committees to be part of this process, to be part of these discussions, and we're going to be the ones to help facilitate that and move it forward.
I have a comment. Yep.
The committees are open to not just, they're open not just to board members, that any member of the bid can be on these committees. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yep, and so we did send out an interest form, and we'll continue to send those out. Yeah, so stay tuned. And then another thing that we're working with is having a calendar, so you can see when those meetings take place. We're proposing initially for them to be quarterly meetings, and then we'll decide as it do folks need to meet more. We want to make sure that it's feasible for people. So there'll be a calendar of events on the website so everybody can see when these meetings are. Perhaps you just want to have an idea, you want to come be a guest and you have an idea, that would be open too. So here's the 2022 grant timeline that we're proposing. So rather than just 1 month, we're going to have 2 months. We felt like, and I think once this has happened a couple of times, we get in rhythm, but it felt a bit rushed. Like people are like, oh, I don't even know, like I'm not even thinking about snow and all these other things yet. So that's going to be longer. So the January, February, those are for the spring and summer events, and they'll be awarded in March. And then July, August, those are for the fall and winter events and activities. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the major investment rolling grant application will be rolling. So what to expect in 2022? So new and improved flower program, I mentioned that. So in addition to outreach with the bid members of who wants the planters and more engagement on that, we're working again with Otter Creek, and we're giving those business names and addresses to him in advance, and he's going to specifically plant based on the sun your flowers, and there is an extra fee for that, but I think it'll be better for everybody. There'll be appropriate flowers, and then he'll keep an eye on them along the way. Another thing that we're doing is with the hanging baskets. Those will be planted in advance and then placed in there, so hopefully they can be bigger and thrive and be something that we can all be proud of. Member education, so we already mentioned the workshops for grant writing and event planning, and then board and committee opportunities, we mentioned those, and then member engagement. So this is the fall, and then we're going to have another one in the spring. It was also brought to our attention that perhaps we could have a guest speaker to give us an update of something that's happening in the community, so stay tuned, something timely and relevant. And then also we'll continue with our newsletters. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
So really to Chad's comment about that is a big animal thing. Like he's right, it's funny, but he's right. And I think that that's part of the point as to why we're here. It is a big animal, but imagine being an individual trying to pull an event off in this community and facing that on your own. Exactly. So I think that's a good example of some of the things that the bid faces that we're ready to take it on. And I think that we're just trying to be here to be open to what is going to help improve the bid and work hard at making those changes. So hopefully there's a ripple event, and it's not going to be easy, but we'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be worked through. I think the bid piece is the easy piece. It's the bigger event thing, and there's already 196 events on the calendar for this next year. So that there's a ton of stuff happening all over, and it's the coordination of all of it.
Right.
So your piece, your part will be part of it, but I think the city is fastly realizing that we need to have ordinances and different policies in place to kind of direct how events happen. So, that'll give a clearer kind of understanding as to what the process is.
Yeah.
And I think how we can help is bring the business voice to the table. So how can it benefit the businesses? How can it bring people in? What was their experience with XYZ? And then some other special projects, as they come up, people brought out the bird scooters. And so that's something that we'll be talking about, gathering feedback to understand good, bad, how can that be improved. And we're not the only community working on this, so we'll be talking to some of those other communities. Like Public Coast, I think specifically, what are they doing? So that we want to gather that information, share it with the board so that they have that and can help make recommendations from our stance. Here's how our businesses feel about that. Another one is another thing that has come up often. We have a lot of murals in our community, so people are calling, I want a mural on my building. We're kind of seeing like, okay, how can that be recorded? I'm not saying we're doing this all at once, but these are the things that we're collecting, documenting it. Maybe we'll address it this year, maybe we'll address it in the future, but I do hope we'll do it. Oh, and the third one is vacant buildings. So that's something that we, how do we connect potential businesses with vacant buildings, whether it's for rent or to purchase, and have that be a more coordinated upfront effort. And we just had a meeting today, I'm talking about that with other communities who are also struggling with that. No further questions?